Some crimes are spontaneous, crimes of passion. Others are cold, calculated, carried out by someone you thought you knew, someone who once promised to protect you. Tonight's story is about love turned lethal, about a man trained in law enforcement and a woman who tried to escape, but never made it out alive. This is the chilling true story of Kendy Howard. Welcome to Crime Never Forgives. Hit subscribe and buckle in. You won't forget this one. Dan and Kendy Howard were married in 1994, 26 years together. Friends and family described them as solid, the kind of couple you just assumed would last. Dan was an Idaho State Trooper, trained, respected, a man of the law. But years later, he'd leave the badge behind to work in the Alaskan oil fields, gone for weeks at a time. And Kendy, she stayed home in Idaho, quietly growing tired of the distance and of Dan. Behind closed doors, cracks had formed. Kendy's friends began noticing things. Her tone changed when she spoke about Dan. And on January 28, 2021, just 5 days before her death, she made a decision that would unravel everything. On the 28th, Kendy drove to the airport to pick Dan up after a 3-week shift. As they pulled away, she said the words that changed everything. "I want a divorce." She later told a friend, Dan's reaction was not good. But she didn't go into detail. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she thought he'd calm down. But what no one knew, not even Kendy, was that time was running out. February 2nd, 2021, 10:43 p.m. Dan Howard's voice, frantic and panicked, echoed through dispatch. "She's dead. She shot herself. She's in the bathtub. Dead." It was treated as a suicide. For now. Kootenai County Sheriff's Deputy Miranda Thomas was one of the first on the scene. She described Dan as screaming, crying, gagging, the picture of a devastated husband. But Miranda's instincts told her something was off. Inside the bathroom was the body of Kendy Howard. She was naked, slumped in the tub, a bullet wound to the head, blood in the water, and at the bottom of the bathtub, her own pistol. But investigators noticed something strange. There wasn't nearly enough blood for a gunshot wound if she had still been alive when she pulled the trigger. Her gun, submerged, showed no signs of being fired underwater. Detective Jerry Northrup raised an eyebrow. The dryer in the hallway was running, full of clean bath towels, still warm. Why would someone clean the bathroom mats after a suicide? And downstairs at the base of the stairs, a packed duffel bag, inside women's clothes, folded, neat. Was Kendy planning to leave? Dan told detectives Kendy had been depressed, that she'd talked about ending her life, but there was no note, no pill bottles, no history of mental illness. When Dan called his stepdaughter, Brooke Wilkins, to deliver the news, she didn't hesitate. "You did it, didn't you?" That one sentence told investigators what they already feared. Still, there wasn't enough evidence to arrest him. Not yet. Over the next 2 years, investigators slowly built their case. They discovered that months before Kendy's death, Dan had been arrested for domestic battery. The details of that incident, kept quiet until now, painted a violent picture. And then came the autopsy. The gunshot was not contact range. There were no fingerprints on the gun, not even Kendy's. And more disturbing, bruising on her neck, a carotid restraint, a hold Dan would have learned as a state trooper. Could he have rendered her unconscious and staged the scene? Prosecutors believed he did exactly that. In April 2023, Dan Howard was arrested, charged with second-degree murder and domestic battery. The trial began in March 2024. The prosecution laid out a chilling theory. Dan strangled Kendy, cutting off the blood to her brain. She passed out. Then he shot her, placed the gun in the tub, wiped the gun clean, threw the mats in the wash, and called 911, a trained cop pretending to be a shocked husband. Over 60 witnesses testified, 10 days of evidence, and just 8 hours of jury deliberation. On March 19, 2024, the verdict was read guilty. At sentencing, Judge Lamont Barretch looked Dan Howard in the eye and said, "You killed a mother, a grandmother, a sister. You snuffed that out because of your own pride, greed, and anger." Dan was sentenced to life in prison. No parole, no escape. A man once sworn to serve and protect, now condemned for destroying the life he promised to cherish. Kendy Howard wanted a fresh start. She packed a bag, maybe even planned her first steps toward freedom, but she never got the chance. Dan Howard made sure of that. And the chilling truth reminds us, sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one who once said, "I love you." If this story haunted you like it haunted me, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. More stories like this, real, raw, unforgettable, are coming soon. Because here on Crime Never Forgives, we believe the truth always rises, no matter how long it takes. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and remember, crime never forgives.